Okay, welcome to report about Kite Ishkur. I will split this report into several parts because I reached quite a lot of kills, and I think in a single video it will just be too long to watch. And before we start looking into the fights, I want to just very briefly comment on the feat. On the left is the feat that I talked about in the previous video, and it's the feat that I used throughout this video and the next ones. But I found a couple of problems with it, and I would like to make a couple of changes, so I will just address them now, so you don't need to watch everything. I think I would like to change one of the rigs, the locus rigs, into a polycarbon. I found that this ship with a single nano is lacking a bit in agility and speed, and the extra 10 DPS that you get from the higher damage ammo thanks to locus is not really that critical. So if I had to choose between extra 10 DPS and more speed and agility, I would definitely go for more speed and agility. So the updated rigs are double polycarbon. When, since you dropped the locus, you need to switch into longer range ammo, so plutonium turns into uranium, and uranium will give you the same optimal range as plutonium plus locus. And finally, I used full pack of Caldari Navy Hornets. The reasoning is pretty obvious. In multiple scenarios, when you kite a close-range destroyer, for example, the close-range destroyer will try to kill all of your drones, and you need to field as many hit points on your drones as possible. And the tankiest drone is the Faction Hornet. So I kind of dropped 2 packs of Faction Hornets. The problem with this is that in this situation you are essentially kinetic locked, because your guns will do kinetic and a little bit of thermal damage, and your drones will only do kinetic. And if you face against Tech 2 ships, specifically Tech 2 assault frigates by Caldari and Galente, you will find yourself kind of in a situation where you shoot straight into Tech 2 resists. So I think the correct, slightly more optimized approach is to take 1 pack of Caldari Navy Hornets for the daily use, and one another pack for these situations where you actually need to shoot into the resist hole. This can be acolytes, this can be warriors, can be Tech 2 acolytes or Tech 2 warriors, or can be faction acolytes or faction warriors, really up to you. I just dropped Tech 2 acolytes. The Tracking Disruptor is very useful, and I would say it's required. It really helps against long-range Navy destroyers that are relatively common, and you will see in the future videos that it actually really helps the Tracking Disruptor in multiple situations. So I would go almost always Tracking Disruptor, and I would not fit like a screening web or a scrum here. This should be just a Tracking Disruptor or a Missile Disruptor. Nano is required. You don't really have an opportunity to plug the resist hole. You just need some agility, and the only way to get it is from the nano. So you struggle a bit against warriors, but it's not the end of the world. You need a soul damage control because a whole bunch of your tank is in whole hit points, so you need damage control for that, and it, in general, is quite helpful in an armor ship to have like a button that gives you essentially 10 seconds invulnerability. Again, you will see a couple of situations where it really helped me. And yeah, the rest is pretty straightforward, I think. Yeah, and I also had a comment about ancillary armor rep. You can replace it for A-type rep, but I actually found, I think only in one situation, in only one fight out of like 20, that the A-type would be better. In all other situations, ancillary rep worked just fine. So honestly, I wouldn't bother and like add extra 20 million to the fit. In the vast majority of situations, ancillary rep is sufficient. Okay, and now I think we can go and watch some fights. Okay, let's watch some fights. First day was pretty rough in general. I wasn't really comfortable with the ship. I didn't know how to approach some of the matchups, some of like more challenging matchups. And you will see that I had to kind of figure out them on the fly. The second day was quite a bit better in terms of quality of fights, but this is just a disclosure for you. So in this video we will only cover the first day, and I will put other days into separate videos. Okay, what are my general impressions about the Ishkur? I think it's on par with Hawk. There are some advantages and some disadvantages. The main disadvantage is that your effective DPS is a bit lower. On paper it's pretty similar, but Hawk just dishes out full DPS up to like 50 kilometers, as long as you can apply. But with Ishkur you have a problem with tracking, with fall off, with your drones being dumb and so on. So in reality you actually apply significantly less DPS than on paper. And your agility is a bit meh, not that great. Again, it took me a while to kind of get used to it after a Hawk with double nano. And I relied on the auto orbit, especially in the first day, way too much. This ship cannot support auto orbit as well as the Hawk. But for the second day I adjusted quite a bit and actually used manual piloting more. By the way, you don't really have to use manual piloting all the time. There are situations where you do need to do it, and there are situations where you're perfectly fine on the auto orbit. You just need to know when is the former situation, when is the latter situation. A couple of comments on these fights. This is a pretty weird setup, like Navy Corercer plus Logi Alt. Typically, if you wanna fly with Logi Alt, you use a ship with a lot of control, like a hookbill or something like this, with like a dual prop and web and scrum, so you can actually catch and pin down your opponent, and when once you establish control, your alt just wraps you up. But in this situation, like, what's the plan here for my opponent? Because if he is in the rep range when I just shoot the Logi, and if he is not in the rep range when I just shoot the Corercer, and he can't do anything to me because he doesn't have control. So it just takes a while, but the end result is pretty obvious here. I just keep the main tackled, and it's not easy to warp out and warp back in on Logi because we are in dead space, and he will land pretty far away from his main ship. But he could have played it a bit better, but it doesn't really matter. This is just a matter of setup essentially. the setup and the fit. Okay, back to my thoughts about the ship. Another problem that I noticed with Ishkur is that the cargo is pretty small for a ship that eats up so much utility. You essentially have to go back to station and refill cap boosters, drones, and so on, like literally every half an hour. So it's not really going to work in null. I don't really know why would you use an Ishkur for roaming in null, but if you do want to do that, just keep it in mind that it's not really going to work. You will just run out of consumables after like 1 or 2 fights. And in lowsec it's not a problem because you can just dock up and buy everything, but in nullsec it will be a problem. I noticed it because I couldn't loot anything, like literally anything. I tried to loot stuff and I had full cargo of cap boosters and some other things. Yeah, I think these two are like the standout problems with his feet. The rest are good things. Okay, this is an interesting fight. Again, you will actually notice that I did not know how to approach this. In general, it's clear that Retri has better tank to DPS, but you have better control. You're a bit faster and you have tracking disruptor. So the approach to this fight, like in general, you somehow mitigate the damage, but keep Retri kind of in the tackle range, because kite against kite gets really messy. You need to be pretty close to make sure that you actually can tackle your opponent when they want to leave. It's not that easy because heated micro warp drive just launches your ship really fast, and you need to be aware of that. And here I try to like break his tracking, then break his optimal, then break his optimal again. I think the best way is to just disrupt on optimal range, and it essentially forces the retribution into standard, into using standard. And against standard and some like natural mitigation, you are probably going to win as long as you can keep the tackle. In this case, I was able to keep the tackle, but it was, I think, mostly because I had links for the first like half of the fight, not because I piloted it well. Yeah, but you will see in the future, in the day 2 fights, that I actually adjusted. Like I rewatched all of his fights. I made some mental notes about the mistakes that I made, and I adjusted. But yeah, as I said, first day was a bit of a mess. This one is against Punisher and 4 Vexors. The only thing that I can kill here is a Punisher, of course. So I primary the Punisher, and the problem is that the Punisher is actually brick tank tackle. I think we use it inside Plexus to kind of catch things, which is a bit of a weird choice, to be honest, but okay. And of course I can't, like against competent opposition, there is not much I can do. But for some reason they launch like medium or even heavy drones that can't even catch me. And then even if I launch like small drones, they are hobgoblins that shoot straight into my Tech 2 resist profile. So essentially I just kind of ignore the 4 Vexors for a while, and I just shoot the Punisher, which is like really weird. You will see this cloud of drones chasing me around. Like all they need to do is launch acolytes. You will see that they actually adjust over time. or even better warriors. And I would have to leave long before I was able to push a Punisher down. Yeah, but eventually they adjust. You see that more and more like light, fast drones are on grid, and also my links run out at some point, and I actually start taking way more damage. So this is, I think, the only fight, maybe one of a very few, where having an A-type rep would be useful. But as I said in the beginning, it's pretty rare that you actually need to rep past the ancillary cycles. Okay, we'll make it a bit faster. There is one instructive moment at the end. So here I just chill. I think this is the first instructive moment. I activate my ADC. You should not do that. And you will see why almost immediately. The ADC is essentially for the situation when you want to warp out. So you hit ADC, you line out, you hit ADC, and then since you're essentially invulnerable, you manage to get out. But here I, for some reason, activated ADC much earlier, and I thought that, well, I should have enough like mitigation to very easily leave the fight. So I very calmly collect my drones, and when I start to line out, and when just cloud of drones arrives, and the alpha almost puts me in the station. But yeah, I survived at like 24 HP in whole. This is why you need to keep the ADC available for these situations. Again, you will see in the future files that I adjusted. I actually rewatched all of this and I made a mental note. And in one of a very similar situations later, you will see that I actually managed it properly. This is kind of a trashy fight. I actually wanted to fight the Navy Oak inside the Plex, but Tristan landed on complex at the same time. And okay, I will take a Tristan. Why not? Tristan, of course, cannot do anything to me. He is afterburner fit with hobgoblins, so he will not even scratch my tank. I will also make it a bit faster. There is really nothing to watch here. Maybe Vexor lands at some point, but again, he lands like at 100 instead of going at 0. And yeah, he burns towards me. I don't really want to fight against the Vexor because clearly I cannot break his active tank, but after a while he just decides to warp out. And okay, I will just loot the wreck and keep going. Yeah, and after that I went back to station, I think, when splashed again myself with the links, and when I went after the Navy Augoror. In like in most situations, I wouldn't even bother with fighting a Navy Orc. Navy Orc can't really do anything against me, but I can't really do anything against him either. In this situation, when we are essentially next door to the large Galenta home system, they will not let me like have this plex for half an hour required to kill a Navy Orc. So the kill is really unrealistic. And yeah, the approach is pretty simple. Like the only way he can touch me is by drones. So you kill the drones first, he notices that, he pulls the drones back. I think he's starts shooting my drones, but he cannot really track them, I think. And after that, it's really like he tries to launch the drones again. I primary them again. He pulls them back again. And after that, I think he just calls for help. And yeah, and then he just waits until the help arrives. Here, it's one like good rule of thumb to know if you are against multiple opponents or if you are against a real solo guy, is to see whether your opponent burns away from the button or burns to the button. If he burns away from the button, it means that he is solo and he tries to avoid a third party ganking him at the beacon. And if he burns to the beacon, it means that he waits for the backup. And that's pretty easy way to kind of figure out that. Again, you will see what it took me a while to figure out the best way to mitigate. Initially, I tried to track and disrupt him on optimal range, but it's actually better, I think, against medium-sized weapons to disrupt on tracking, because it gives you essentially invulnerability. Large weapons against tracking disruption and like a small seek of the assault frigates, they just cannot apply at all. And they will make your drones a bit safer as well. So yeah, I'm just chilling, sitting on out orbit. He cannot damage me. I slowly grind through his tank and I spam the discount because I know that someone must be coming. It just looks too good to be true. I thought that they will bring, you will see here, I thought that they will bring some anti-kiter, like prop fleet, and I thought, okay, this is probably a ship to just chase me away, but when an insta-locking Lach lands, and I'm on a really bad trajectory, so I'm like 20 kilometers away from him, and when I turn, it manages to actually land a scrum, but thankfully the Lachesis guy fat fingers his scrum, and I just managed to burn away. And once I'm out of scrum, there is nothing they can do anymore, because again I have a control. Yeah, but I was panicking a bit here. You will see that I run like 3 extra cycles on my ancillary rep for no reason at all. I really did not expect a Lach. So it took me like a few seconds to collect myself. But yeah, after that I just burn away from the tackle range of Lach, and I can warp out. I thought about maybe like run around them a bit more, because I only care about scrum on the Lach, and scrum on the Lach is like 20 kilometers, I think. But I thought, yeah, it's pretty pointless, I guess, at this point. Okay, so this is the fights from this first day. I will make a separate video for the fights on the second day, and maybe one more video for the future. I will see how it will look in the edited format. So see you in the next episode.